Let's turn our attention to South Africa now. Eskom, the vertically integrated power utility over there, had signed a $1.5 billion loan agreement with the China Development Bank. Now, the funds will help to finance the completion of the Medupi power station in Limpopo. Now, this deal comes as the power utility battles a spate of problems that have seen two of its most senior leaders leave and a downgrade by ratings agencies as well. Here's CGTN's Angelo Coppola with more.
It's the first major deal signed by the new CEO, Johnny Lephalale, who's been in place for just 2 weeks.
Today's signing of a facility agreement of $1.5 billion is more than just about additional funding for the Medupi new capacity program. It symbolizes a partnership for a sustainable long-term journey of growth and development for South Africa and the region. The finalization of the agreement aims to make funding accessible to Eskom in the most efficient and conservative way for the next 5 years.
The bank has an existing relationship with the power utility.
We signed the $500 million facility in the same place in October the 3rd, 2016, which aimed to solve the temporary financial difficulties and the liquidity problem of Eskom. Our cooperation is not a zero-sum rule. It's not that you lose a game, I win. It's a win-win cooperation, just as Mr. CEO has mentioned in his address. If the thread is broken, no one benefits. We shall go together with others if we want to go far.
The state-owned entity has been under pressure as there have been several leadership changes in the past 9 months, but it appears its funding drive is on track.
To date, we have secured 77% of our funding requirements, including cash on hand for the current financial year. This is despite the tough market conditions. Eskom's future looks promising.
With 6 months left, Lephala's optimism will be tested, analysts say, especially as the country skirts near the edge when it comes to further credit ratings downgrades. I'm Angelo, Coppola for CGTN in South Africa.
All right, then, it's a fairly interesting story. Let's get to the latest on it from Johannesburg. So, Mr. Nigel joins us now live with more data from that city. So, Mr., this specific loan has a 15-year maturity, but how exactly is it priced? Does it leave power consumers in the country on the hook to service a loan with a variable interest rate?
Well, no doubt, Rama, the extra cost of servicing this loan will be passed on to consumers. Eskom is still applying for new tariff increases in the region of 20%, which is very high, and cumulatively it's received tariff increases in the last few years way over 100%. Eskom is refusing to divulge, though, what interest rate it will pay on this latest loan. Due to the recent downgrades, the immediate impact would be on the rate of interest, which is usually a lot higher because of higher risk. But Eskom says it cannot give those details as the financing agreement with China Development Bank is confidential.
Indeed. Let's talk about this debt. According to the Eskom CEO, it's needed to finish the Medupi coal power plant, which by itself was pretty massive. But just for context, how over time and over budget is Medupi and its other coal-fired twin, the Kusile power plant?
So the Medupi and Kusile projects began in 2007 and 2008 respectively and are planned for completion in 2020 and 2022. Now, when construction on Medupi started, the cost to completion at the time was in the region of 80 million rand. According to the last figures Eskom released last year, the cost to completion was sitting in the region of 195 billion rand, close to 3 times the initial projection. Now, there have been numerous delays in the construction. The biggest interruption was caused by wage strikes. The first phase of the station, Unit 6, was meant to be operational in 2012. It was only opened in 2015. Now, work on the 5 units, the 5 remaining units seem to be moving along nicely now, with some units expected to come online ahead of time. But the cost overruns will impact the company's balance sheet. It will take a lot longer to get a return on investment. You also need to remember there were several several loans that Eskom was granted for these projects. Eskom received $500 million from the African Development Bank in 2008. In 2010, the World Bank agreed to lend South Africa $3.75 billion. The power utility also drew on the loan guarantees from the South African government. And of course, there's this new loan from China Development Bank. The cost implication will be a lot higher because many of the cost projections for cost to completion don't include the interest costs during construction.
Indeed. And let's just give our viewers a bit of context there. Between them, those two are adding about 9 gigawatts of generation capacity to the grid. Let's focus on Eskom's CFO. Rather interestingly, he says he expects to see strong appetite for between $1 billion to $1.5 billion worth of bonds that they're bringing to market in the next 6 months. But again, going back to that interest rate question, what coupon rate does he have to offer to the market to actually raise that kind of money?
Well, you know, many experts are surprised on the CFO's view on this. It's definitely going to be a lot higher now that the company has been downgraded. It will have to offer a really attractive rate in order to get buyers. The company believes it still is in a strong position, but, you know, as I say, experts feel that it's going to be tough and very expensive if it does go to the bond market. At the moment, Eskom has bonds issued in the domestic market amounting to 120 billion rand, with maturity dates of between 7 and 26 years. The yields on those bonds vary between 9.5% to 10.8%.
Indeed, we'll leave it there for the time being. Sumitra Naidu there live in Johannesburg. Thank you for the update.